Right. So we have had lots of conversations about apps and tools and stuff. Why don't we begin with the hurdles and problems?
In general, the collection of data is something that's happening all around in a good way, in a bad way. Yet it's indifferent as long as we can't categorize and analyze data and channel it in a proper manner so that it can feed to our decision making, thus to our bottom line. So my view is that we are at a stage where we're just moving into the realization of the impact of tech. We are not there yet. It's still an infant. And yes, today it's a cost center for most parties. So the question that was asked a second ago, where is the saving happening? It's still a cost center. It will start impacting the bottom lines, impacting companies' profits, impacting consumers, the minute that we start utilizing the outcome of it in a proper way. And today, we most of the time do not have outcome. So most of the time, we have brilliant numbers. Yeah? It's digits that sit on a screen and look good whenever we're presenting them to the world outside or to executive management. The minute that we start integrating this data all into proper channels and impacting our bottom line, we will then have proper savings, and we will then move into a real estate 6.0, the future of the asset class that we're talking about, more transparent, more efficient, and more liquid.
Alan, challenges and hurdles.
Well, interesting to have Matar here representing the customer side of the equation. Because at the end of the day, it's the customer that determines what we do. And I don't think that the customer really cares what technology is being used. They just simply care on what they are getting in terms of a service and deliverables. So, you know, we talk about the type of contracts we enter into. Are they input controlled or are they output controlled? So a customer doesn't really want to care whether they have 50 housekeepers. They would actually prefer to know that they have a clean building, and they don't really care how we go about doing that. And so we need to ask ourselves the question from a technological perspective, you know, how has technology changed things? We think of, you know, what are our three basic needs that need to be satisfied? And our three basic needs will always be, we need to have shelter, we need to have food, and I'll leave the third one to your imagination. However, as long as those three basic needs are being met and satisfied, people don't really care about how they're being delivered. And so technology or prop tech or the digital transformation that we're talking about is probably a lot more impactful on those that are providing the service. And as a result of them being able to improve, to become more efficient, to be able to do things quicker and at a lower cost, it simply improves the ability to do the same kind of thing that we've always had to do, which is clean the floor, clean the walls, clean the facade, make sure that the assets in the building are properly maintained and are working efficiently. All of those things, we find that technology is just contributing to our ability to do those at more speed, more efficiency, and potentially at a lower cost. So if you think of the impact of somebody cleaning a floor, first they started with a bucket and a mop, then they may have had a machine that assisted them in brushing the floor, then they might have had a vacuum cleaner that they could push around, then they may have had a robotic vacuum cleaner that was controlled by somebody, and then that robotic vacuum cleaner became autonomous. And so we see a progression, but at the end of the day, it's still the same service that's being delivered. So I think the question, when we think about digital transformation in the community management industry, is how does it affect us as community managers? How can we improve our service to effectively deliver exactly the same things? So from a client perspective, I again repeat, it doesn't really matter whether it's done with a large number of people or with technologically improved equipment. They don't really care as long as the job is done. And that's the challenge that we have, I think.
From my perspective, I will be a little bit different, because when you are a community or property manager, you're dealing with the multiple service providers. The multiple service providers use different technology platform. And we as a community manager or property manager, we use different platform. The challenge becomes bringing together technology, what we use within the community, together into one, that could be one of the major challenges that everyone go through. That's one. If you look at second segmentation, in terms of implementation, and the front-end team and the back-end team, how they utilize. Today, if you have mobile and you have 100 applications, and regularly how many applications we use. So that means all the tools and the technology, the digital transformation, what you're bringing to the community, the implementation is one of the real hard, challenging part. Maybe out of 25% of people use and feed the data properly, and the rest is remain there. And the end users who's not taking some interest to utilize the platform and take the advantage of it. That's a secondary challenges would be. And the third is that in general market, different system, different software, different technology, and adapting and learning and that's utilizing, it's another challenge because we are in a fast driven environment. So these are the three physical challenges that I would think about.
I'm a community manager, and the way I see things is digital transformation will lead to a lot of data output. Now, do we have the capability of interpreting the data? Do we have that understanding of data analysis? That's a different segment altogether. So as a community manager, with whatever data is coming from the app, from the software, do we interpret this data correctly? Because I'm looking at the end part. I'm not looking at the implementation. I'm not looking at how things initiated. I'm looking at the end part. We did the implementation. Everything went fine. Now there is, as Alan mentioned, huge numbers. Are we understanding it right? Too much data, sometimes it's very harmful because you tend to then take the decision based on your gut feeling. So digital transformation, yes, that's the future. PropTech, that's the way to go. But it still needs to be streamlined. It still needs to be narrowed down for real decision making. And that's what I believe would be a real challenge over here.
Right. There is so much talk of apps, many companies developing their own apps. So my question on that is, what is your opinion on having apps that offer flexibility? For example, email or Gmail, all businesses use them. It's like, it's like the baseline. Everyone uses them. And then how flexibly we use that is on top of that. So that is technology, it's mass, it is affordable, everyone uses it to their own advantage. But what I see in community management, very specifically, and also in FM still you have got some mass tools. They are hardwired, very specific, rigid, like each company developing its own. So how will that technology at a mass scale become affordable and, give real benefits?
Okay, again, talking from a community management point of view, I have basically three roles that I need to fulfill. One is to manage and administer. One is manage common assets. Second one is to administer common assets. And the third, obviously, is to govern the board, the people, the board that takes the decisions and everything to move. Management and administration of common areas, we are looking at approvals, we are looking at how things in the common area should move. And most of the aspect in this is affected by the FM. So from a community management point of view, if there is a need, and I'm sure most of the apps have that field relevant. I have not come across any major technological advance in terms of community management coming forward. But in the FM side, yes, there has been a lot. The FM side of the industry, it tends to evolve. But from community management, it has always been slow. So for me, if there is a need arising out of community management, yes, we have come across app developers who are really flexible in incorporating it. So I would not say that I have, or me as a person or as a company, we have faced any challenges as such.
Apps should be flexible. There is no, but it must be specific to that, the industry needs. Now we are into community management industry. Definitely the application must be specific to the community management industry, and that can cater to the services what we offer. The second thing, app why becomes today popular? Because it's user friendly, because we use in mobile many applications. So it's quick that, instead of you're logging into your browser and doing the things in a old way, it's been completely shifted and changed. That they know the evolving nature of the technology, and hence application is a must. It must be having a flexibility, and it must have that cater to that industry or the services need by the end users. So if you incorporate those three, I think that would be the answer from my side.
Ellen, what do you think?
So, again, when we talk about technology, it has no impact on what we need. Our basic needs have never changed. And you think about mail, for example. I can't remember the last time I actually got a piece of mail in an envelope. Who has ever received a maintenance levy or a service charge by way of an invoice? They all come by email. And, post offices have basically become redundant around the world. And so technology hasn't really changed what we need to be done. It's changed the way we go about doing things. And essentially technology has accelerated change. It's improved efficiency. It's sped everything up. It's completely changed the way we go about our daily lives and completely changed the way we go about working and providing the services that are needed. I think from a community management perspective, we need to understand and we need to investigate ways of improving the way we do things and delivering our services to those that need them. And it may come from any variety of things. It may come from improving the platforms that we see across multiple contractors that we use in buildings, trying to integrate those, trying to make ways of remote working, virtual assistants, looking at how we can actually continue providing the same or better level of service at a reduced cost and hopefully an increased profitability. And I don't think there's any one thing, there's no one technological change that you could put your finger on that says that is going to have a massive impact on what we do, because if we look at over the ages, we had an agricultural revolution, then we had an industrial revolution, and now we have a technology revolution. And sooner or later it's going to be a data-driven revolution. But all of these things increase the speed, enhance the lifestyle, and do all of those things, but still fulfill our basic needs. So I think that, when we talk about community management specifically and way technology improves community management, I think it just improves the platform, the delivery, the speed, the efficiency, and hopefully the profitability of what it is we do.
I need to agree with everyone and at the same time separate it into two different pieces. So I believe within my research to what the guys face as challenges and what do we need to improve in FM, I believe there's two major things over here. Standardization, which we need to do. I believe people who are community managers now know what I'm talking about perfectly, because systems they use in one company do not talk to each other and integrate with each other. So standardization is major across providers. It does not matter what solution you use. You should have a standardized, a verified way to collect data and utilize it and channel it. That's item number one. Item number two is utilizing systems that can either talk to each other directly or through bridges. So currently you have systems, you have solutions. If you're a community manager, probably Glen doesn't live this so much because in general it's standardized within his medium. However, other community managers over here may live it and do live it, because the FM company has a system that does not talk to theirs. The client wants to use a system which is different, and all of those are talk different languages in a simple way. And then you have a bigger challenge. Would you really take output and outcome of data from one system and manually input it into another? Is this why you're collecting data, and is this the best we can do? Now, we're going in the right direction, because naturally what will happen is companies will realize that it's ridiculous to set up your own systems and to create your own systems, and that's why there is multinational companies that are there to create standardized systems that operate and are run and are maintained at a much better level and talk to each other at a much better level. And that's why all over the world, there's the Yardis of the world and the Oracles of the world. They build what works. They learn from all our mistakes and all our challenges. So we're on the right track. We need standardization of protocol, standardization of method, which will happen eventually. And we need at the same time systems that do work or can talk to each other directly or indirectly.
Yep, I can very well relate to that. We do require an ecosystem where all the different systems, they talk to each other. If a resident registers with the community manager, that should automatically configure their access cards, and a lot of things should automatically happen, but all these systems, they don't talk to each other. Looking at investments on technology, on prop tech, how do you look at, in percentage or in nobody would give the amounts, but how big or major of a concern is for you investment in prop tech?
Well, I can give you a specific example of how, property tech or prop tech or just technology has certainly improved our ability to deliver at a lower cost. Given the whole pandemic situation over the last 2 and a bit years, we've all had to think about how we can change our workplace. So, we've all had to examine remote workplaces. We've all had to examine potentially work from home or virtual assistant roles or outsourcing or all of these kind of things that have been thrust upon us because of the pandemic situation that we've lived through. And so for us specifically, we examined how that had an impact on how we typically carried out our work in a typical workplace, and we examined remote workforce. And what we have done is we've been able to provide exactly the same type of service from a complete, or not complete, but a vastly remote located workforce. And so we talk about first world or developing countries and developed countries. We don't like to use the word third world anymore, and fair enough. But we know that there is a massive, well-trained English-speaking or Arabic-speaking workforce in many places of the world that are developing and are thirsting for employment. And so if we can engage via the use of technology those people in our workforce here, we can find that the benefits are we may be able to increase efficiency and also certainly reduce costs in terms of employment or HR. And so that's a specific field that we have been able to apply technology by having a platform that is available or makes remote work far more accessible and available at a far reduced cost, and HR initiatives. So that's, in terms of just strict technology and how it's applied to our company specifically, we do need to examine how technology has enabled us and has enabled many people around the world who may not have had an opportunity to work in a developed environment to actually work in that environment without actually having to physically relocate. And so it's a win-win, really.
As a company, from an investment point of view, I cannot speak on behalf of the company though, but on an individual association base, we had some unique problems, and I'm sure most of you all will relate to in terms of commercial buildings, the elevator situation, that is the waiting times for the elevator. So we come across a prop tech solution provider who is, I'm not that tech savvy, but integrated AI with the cameras, and we have seen phenomenal results in one of our buildings on the commercial portfolio, which is being managed. If we do have success in reduced waiting times for the end users, this might be replicated. Now, this is something out of the box thinking. Okay, surprisingly, the solution came out, when I was speaking to the vendor, the solution came out from a fast food counter. So this technology was used in a fast food counter just to count the number of people coming in and going out using AI on the cameras. So it's not the turnstile or something. It was like the cameras counting how many people coming in, and it was giving a live count at any given point of time in real time to say that, okay, there are 500 people right now in the restaurant, there are 400 people, a live count. And this technology came for COVID to just control the number of people that are there. So that thing was adopted to use in this elevator scenario. So I will not rule out the possibilities. We still have to explore a lot what we can do or learn from other industries. I never thought this could be implemented in the elevator scenario. The waiting times in that particular buildings has reduced down to 30%. If it's successful, it will go for commercial, and the high rises here, it will be implemented to reduce the waiting time. So I believe that kind of technology, yes, the developers, the community management firms will be really keen in investing because it saves time of the end user. So that could be of value.
KG, next question for you. Which prop tech tool do you think is the most important for you as a community manager to have it or have it in future?
You know, if you take a few years back and now, earlier we don't have one application or tool for community management or property management. So the basic things that is required, you need to have your industry-specific community management technology or tools to operate. That's the basic needs. It comes with app, without app, that's different. But you know, how much you add that, you know, added advantage in terms of technology, that will enhance your services. It also gives you a little bit, you know, ahead of that, you know, market and competition. But again, if you look at, you are a community management industry, that other industry people are in terms of evolving technology, it's our duty to evolve it, our duty to invest in terms of technology, not only for the company as we own, also as a building what we manage. And in terms of it's specific to answer, you know, what are the few areas that the technology had helped during this, you know, recent years? We all know the pandemic. There are visitor management as well as to you know, to continue your business. Those business continuity plans heavily, you know, involved in technology, use of technology. But in specifically what I said, you know, we or the industry where all the stakeholders are different part of the world, different part of the place, and to assign a task and get the things. Earlier we used to do email and letters and etc. Now those technology, the task management has performed a little bit, you know, better, and the document management become much easier. And the third aspect, you can say that the customer management and communication become much easier, which is, you know, these are the three major areas which is connecting the stakeholders, including your customers and our operations, and much more efficient way. So the three areas that I could see that recently it's more and more evolving. And definitely for that we need to have a more investment in terms of company side as well as the community side. So that's the reason even we create the budget line, it comes technology, certain costs we are investing on year. So which we don't have 10 years back or 15 years back. So that itself gives that indication that we are moving in that direction.
Alan, do you have anything in mind, any particular area that you feel that this is the area where PropTech can develop and evolve for community managers that will make our lives easier?
I don't think it's easy to say that there is any one thing that you can specify as being a gap or somewhere that's going to change. I think the biggest change for all of us has simply been this. I think the iPhone was introduced in 2004, if I'm right. And I'll show my age now. When I first started working, we had an IBM computer in its own humidified controlled room, which was the size of probably 4 of those desks put together, and input was by way of punched cards. And so I see a few heads nodding, so there's probably a few people that are approaching my age. However, technology, it's kind of sneaks up on us, doesn't it? You know, we're basically ruled by this, and I think this has probably been the most colossal change in our own personal work life, how we go about our work life and how we interact with our customers. I mean, you can run, but you can't hide. They're going to find you. If they don't get me on my phone, then they're going to get me on my smartwatch, and you know, then they're going to geolocate me at some point or other, and I may even get a chip put in the back of my head, who knows. But technology, it doesn't, you can't really envisage, I don't think, or categorize where the gap is or where the next change is coming from. It kind of sneaks up on you. And all of a sudden you look back and you think, how on earth did we ever manage without a phone? How on earth did we ever manage without email? How do we go about doing our job? Well, you know, here's a news flash for you. We did. We did exactly the same things, but in a different way. You know, we used to write letters to each other, and we used to go and put a stamp on it and put it in the mailbox, and it got delivered at some point, and somebody got the message, and hopefully hopefully there would be a check in the mail, you know, that was the best way you could put someone off. So, oh yeah, check's in the mail. Nowadays we just don't get paid, right? Yeah. So technology, I think, isn't something that you can predict, definitely. One prediction that you can make is there is going to be some massive technological advancements coming in the very near future. And technology doesn't go on a straight line. Technology goes on a curve. It accelerates change. Technology change accelerates. And so we can say that, if anything, with a surety, is we are going to see some massive technology changes within the next 2 to 5 years. What they are, who knows? But it's not only going to change the way we do things, it's going to have a massive impact on our quality of life. Is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing? Who's to say?
Would it be fair for me to say that instead of community management being influenced by a PropTech specific technology, maybe it will be more influenced by general advancement in technology and in some other sphere of life?
Citing the early example I gave, and I'm thinking out of the box over here, what I learned, the lesson learned was, I believe PropTech will affect community management from the green technology kind of space or sustainable infrastructure, because as we are being more responsible towards climate change, all right, and across the industries, heavy duty, across the industries, airlines, whatever, they are all addressing the climate change issue. We as community, we as association or community managers, we are uniquely positioned to address this aspect of climate change by introducing PropTech in green technologies and sustainable infrastructures. Now, when I say about that, I could think about smart irrigation. I could think about electrical vehicle charging systems coming on board, which is currently not happening. There would be an integration in the future. The options are endless. Okay, it's just that as these development comes on board, we have to adapt. We have to adopt PropTech somewhere or the other to integrate, as Waqar said, to integrate further to make sure things move seamless.
Thank you very much. Any question?
So, owner association has been a success in some countries and failed in some countries. I would like to know the success factors that make us works. That's question number one. And number two, I would like you just to educate me and the difference between community management and owner association. You can have both. We work as a yin-yang, and sometimes you can have community management and you don't need an owner association. So I'm intrigued to know.
So essentially community management, owners association management, strata management, body corporate management, call it what you like, it's all the same. And it's thrust upon us not because of any particular regulation or law, it's thrust upon us simply by the fact that buildings are subdivided into units. So we talk about two types of association, vertical or horizontal. And so what actually changes, or what gives us the need for community management is multiple owners that share a common area. That's exactly what community management is in a nutshell. It's where you have multiple owners who have an undivided share in a common area that needs to be maintained. And so it doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, and believe you me, I've been all over the world, and it's the same issues, the same problems, the same thing that confronts a community manager, an association manager, strata manager, whatever you like to call it. And it is the fact that we are dealing with a number of people who all have a common interest or a shared interest in a shared facility, whether it be elevators, foyers, external facade, landscaping, roads, lighting, waste collection, security, housekeeping, the list goes on. That in a nutshell. So they are one and the same. It's all the same, all around the world.